Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia. With me today we got Brandon.
Hello.
We're here to talk about games and things.
What's up? Games and things.
Games and things. What's on the agenda today? Not terribly exciting.
I literally haven't played anything. I played a little bit of Hollow Knight,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
other than that, I because there's the announcement of Silksong and whatnot, so I went and play some Hollow Knight. And other than that, I've done nothing but play Fortnite for the new season, which is Gorillas themed. So there's that.
Yeah. I did play a couple things though, so I will talk about those.
Let's hear them. Let's hear them.
Nothing terribly exciting. Actually, both things I think I've talked about on the podcast at some point or another, maybe. So the first thing though, Chibi Robo came out on NSO, so that is available.
I need to play that. I didn't know it was already out. Oh shit! I thought that was the 28th.
Yeah, okay. So that one, no, Kirby's the 28th. That I believe that's 28th, something like that. And
Probably.
Chibi Robo was last week. So
okay.
So I was playing Chibi Robo the last few days, and it was nice to go back to it. So Chibi Robo it's kind of like a Metroid game in a way, set in a house. I think that's almost.
And is this gonna be like the fucking? Is this gonna be like a case of like? It's kind of like a Metroid game because it has this one specific feature, but nothing else that has anything to do with Metroid games. Like every journalist is now calling everything a fucking Souls-like.
I mean, it's kind of it's more like so Chibi Robo. Really, what it is. So
it's a Souls-like, right?
Well, yeah, it's a Souls-like. No, Chibi Robo's got different layers to it. So kind of at its base layer, is kind of its story. You are a miniature robot. You were purchased by this family for their daughter's birthday. And your mission is to become like the best Chibi Robo, basically. And you do this by getting happiness points, by helping out the family and cleaning up the house and doing little tasks. And that's kind of where it starts. And you're like, oh, okay. Then you're like, why do you call it a Metroid game? Well, because the farther you progress in the game, the more kind of abilities that you unlock that make it so you can explore more of the house. So it's like, oh, you might find a cup in the kitchen as you're exploring. Well, then you can use the cup as a shield, and you can use that to get through some things that might damage you elsewhere in the house that have been preventing your progress. Or you unlock, say, like I mean, it's super, super early, like in the first couple of minutes of the game, but you get like a helicopter thing that lets you kind of like glide down and, kind of, so you're not falling off of things. The more happiness points you get, the more Chibi Robo levels you get, like the higher your Chibi Robo rank is. And once you exceed certain ranks, you get upgraded batteries so you can explore further. Like you're not as limited to the proximity to like outlets and things like that. So that's where that comparison comes to. Not like action reflexes like kill things, but I mean there are enemies in the game, I suppose, but really you're really kind of exploring, and you have that. And then but instead of fighting enemies, it's kind of more like the social dynamic between you and the family, or you and the other toys that are in the house. And then there's kind of a surprising like side main story, I guess I would call it. Like what you think is the main story is not actually kind of the main story, and like something else kind of becomes the main story as you go through, and you kind of realize it later in the game. It's a surprisingly chill game. It's really interesting. I do like it a lot. It's like it's I would say one of my favorite GameCube games.
Okay.
I do think
this will be
really
my
nice.
first time playing it whenever I do.
Yeah, honestly I think it holds up pretty well. I've been playing it with the GameCube controller, but I really don't see any reason why it would be any worse for wear with like the normal like Switch controls and things like that. It's pretty straightforward in terms of what it is. It does have some of those like strangely obtuse like 2000s era controls sometimes. We're like, why didn't they just simplify this? Well, they didn't. So sometimes you have to pull things out and put them away on your own instead of having it doing it automatically for you. But it is what it is. But otherwise, I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, it has a lot of surprises. I think that's the thing that surprised me the most the first time I played the game. Just kind of things that you wouldn't necessarily expect to happen do happen. And the story kind of goes in a direction that you don't expect it to go. But it also ends up having like a very nice and satisfying ending. So, so there's that thing. Also too, I mean, it gets you, I don't know, do like mundane tasks and it's like enjoyable. Like, oh, let me clean up this garbage, or let me, clean up this, pull out this toothbrush. That's another thing. You find items around the house and you use them for things.
Hmm.
So you find like a toothbrush and you're like, oh, I'm gonna use this to scrub the floor. So you do things like that. Um, and there's a bunch of different like weapons and suits that you get, and it's just kind of like I said, very interesting the way it is. It's kind of like also very Toy Story esque because, like I said, at night the toys all come alive and you interact with them, and they have their own drama and dilemmas and things to kind of work through with them. So it's very interesting. Have you played any of the other Chibi Robo games? They're nothing like this one because this one is like the core gameplay. The other ones are all like strange spin-offs.
I
Except for
see.
maybe like Chibi Robo Park Patrol, I think is what it was. That one's a little closer where you're kind of doing like gardening and things, but it just doesn't quite have the core mechanics that this one does. This game mechanic itself, like the way that they did it, totally right for like a true sequel. I think they could really build off of what they have here. Because I think it's pretty, like I said, pretty interesting what they have going on. It's an interesting mix of genres, and it becomes interesting, um, interesting game like as it progresses and kind of more features unlock with it. So there's that. If there's anything else I have to say about it at the moment, but I don't think so. I'm sure there'll be more. I've only gotten a couple hours into this playthrough, so I'm sure there'll be some stuff that I kind of remember later on. But it is for the most part pretty straightforward in terms of what you're doing and what your goals are. Um, so that's pretty nice. But like I said, as you as your batteries get better and as your abilities get better, you can start exploring more rooms. The beginning of the game, you're limited to just the living room, and it's like, oh, now I have access to the kitchen. Now I have access to the foyer. Oh, here's a basement. And it just kind of keeps going from there. So, that's all pretty neat stuff. Did you have any questions on Chibi Robo? Anything you wanted to know? Any burning questions?
No, honestly, because I'm probably just gonna play it later on.
Yeah, you should. It's a good game. Um, so there's that. Second thing that I played this week, I didn't write it on the list, but it's kind of random. So I will put it on there since we don't really have a lot of other things to talk about because I'll probably end up talking about it again eventually.
Okay.
Um, a couple different times because I ended up, I don't know why. Well, no, I kind of know why. Um, so Apple Music does this thing where like weekly they'll generate like some playlists like customized for you. Um, and there's two of the playlists that I really like. One of them's kind of like a wake up mix, which is kind of just like it's supposed to be more like upbeat music, and one of them's
Mhm.
like a new music mix, which is supposed to be a mix of music from I think generally artists that I might be familiar with, but songs I have not heard before. At least
Okay.
that's kind of my understanding of it, or at least maybe stuff that it thinks that I might like that I have not heard before.
Yeah.
So I don't remember which playlist it was that this came up on. Could be either, but randomly, um, a Phoenix Wright like cornered remix came up, and I'm like, fuck, I'm like, I really want to play Phoenix right now. And I saw that the Phoenix Wright like the whole like 6 game like series was like on sale for like half off, and I was like, so it's the Phoenix Wright trilogy and the Apollo Justice trilogy, and I was
Okay.
like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna go back in and play some Phoenix Wright because that sounds very like nice and relaxing right now. And I love that music to death. So I was like, let's do it. So yeah, so I've been replaying through Phoenix Wright. I'm still in the first game. I'm mm, like maybe like 2/3 of the way through the third case already. So I've gotten a bunch in there already. I think for the first game, I think this is the third time I've played this, at least. I bought it on the DS originally,
Okay.
and then I played bits and pieces of it on the Wii when it came out there. And so now I got it on the Switch too, which is nice because it's a nice way to play it. So for those that are not familiar and somehow not heard of Phoenix Wright, it's been around for a while now. It's a text adventure game where you play as a lawyer, and it's kind of got like two kind of core elements to it. One is the kind of like crime scene investigation, where you're going around and getting evidence and talking to witnesses and getting clues. And then you take that information and you go into the trial phase, where you're kind of debating back and forth with whoever the prosecutor is. In the first game, for the most part, it's Edgeworth, um, who becomes like your rival through the whole series. And so you guys are like bantering back and forth and trying to find inconsistencies in testimony and figuring out which evidence to use where and go through things like that. So I love the Ace Attorney games. I mean, not every case is perfect. There definitely are some like cases that are just more obtuse than other ones. But I've always just found them to be really good. The music's always like top notch. They definitely went through and polished up the graphics in this one. So this is, I think, it's supposed to be HD. So I mean, it looks HD. I'll say, like, it's definitely, graphics are very smooth. It's not pixelated. It looks like they took the time to actually go through and either use like an AI to smooth it out, or that someone went through and hand updated
Okay.
the graphics. But sounds are still intact, just like they were. Graphics look more or less like nicer versions of what I remember from the 3DS. So that looks really good. It seems to be very fluid. Really, not too much you can mess up on it. I did note that they did keep the touch controls intact for if you're playing on handheld, which is nice. So, not that it's as easy with the larger like Switch 2, but it is still doable. So you have that option there. And it works really, really easily. There's not too much in terms of controls that you need to kind of memorize there, but yeah, it works really well. Um, I don't plan on like playing through all 6 games back to back. I'm not that much of a sadist. I think I'll get sick of it before then. But I figured I would just pick up a case every once in a while and just kind of like, okay, I'll go through here. I think aside from the first game though, I don't think I've ever actually replayed any of the other 5. If
Oh,
I
wow.
did, I have not played. I definitely have not replayed any of the any of the Apollo Justice games for sure. So those, for the most part, are like complete unknowns to me. I don't remember very much about those games at all. Um, and the first Phoenix Wright game, I do remember quite a bit. Not like kind of like how to shortcut through the gameplay because it is a text adventure, but just generally like how the cases progress and kind of who the ultimate like bad guys are a lot of times in a lot of the cases. Um, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a lot of fun. You've played through a lot of them too, right? I can't
I've played a
remember.
few of them. I've never finished one. I don't think I've finished a single one of them actually.
Oh,
But
really?
I've played a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, to listeners, if you're looking to play through one, like the first game is the best. Like I don't know how they arrange them in this one. I assume that the fifth case is in this version of the game, because the fifth case originally was a case that was added specifically for the DS version and was not in the original Game Boy Advance release in Japan. Because it added some stuff that wasn't possible on the Game Boy Advance. Um like it had some like touchscreen like mini games and things like that, or touchscreen investigation things and stuff like that. Um, so I'm not sure how far they ended up taking that, but the first game, like from the first case to the fourth case, is actually like a pretty tight like story, um, which kind of it's very enjoyable and kind of sets up a lot of the other stuff. So I would say if anyone's kind of like interested, that's kind of a good way to do it. Honestly, the first case alone is like a perfect kind of like you know get your feet wet to kind of see if you like it. It's probably only like 15 minutes long. It's not very long, but it shows off the court stuff very well, and especially how dramatic it can get because of the twists and turns. I love it when you like corner someone and then that dramatic music plays and he's like, objection. And it goes like all wild and you're like, oh yeah. I'm like, I beat this fucker. And then Edgeworth will like waggle his finger and I'll be like, oh no, not today. I changed the rules. Oh, that autopsy thing that you got, yesterday is wrong. I updated it. So there's always kind of those things. You get those kind of like fun things. Obviously, it's not based in real law. It's very fanciful, but you get the gist of it. It all kind of comes through there. So that's really nice. Like I said, I'm really interested to see how they ended up ultimately handling the kind of the DS kind of integration, because that would be a lot of that's going to be in the Apollo Justice kind of trilogy. So we will see there. I realize too at this point I have most of the Phoenix Wright games, available on my Switch. The only thing I don't have is and I do want to play, is the Ace Attorney Investigations, which is kind of like the Miles Edgeworth kind of spinoff that they had. and they put that on the Switch pretty recently, and that was the first time that they localized the second Ace Attorney Investigations game. The first one came out on the DS, but the second one was never localized. And I still haven't gone through and finished the that strange Japanese kind of like samurai one or whatever. 1-2 that came out a few years ago. I started it and never really finished it for some reason. So I'll have to go back through and do that again at some point if I continue on this thread.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that. I think that's all I've been playing though. I do
Okay.
not think I have anything else.
Okay. I want to talk about a few things.
Yeah.
Mainly discussions. This discussion
Mhm.
kind of started last week. I want to present a question to you and do like a little mini game debate because I don't have anything to talk about because I watched 6 hours of wrestling this weekend. So I didn't
Yeah.
really
And
play any games, you know?
I don't think we have any news either, so that's
The only
fine.
news we really have is that Hollow Knight Silksong is a game that actually fucking exists and releases next week, and that's kind of amazing. That's the only news we have, really.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that again. And we talked about it just before the
I would say there's
podcast.
other news, like apparently Ubisoft sold off some IPs to
Mhm.
a different company, and they're looking to bring those games that would have been dead and buried over to other platforms now. So Cold Fear, Child of Eden, I Am Alive, Grow Home and Grow Up, all are IPs that were sold off to, I think, Atari that is looking to re-release them under their publishing labels. So there might
Okay.
be a case of being able to play Child of Eden again in the future, which is awesome because that game is fantastic. And I always forget that Ubisoft was the one that published it because it's a good game and it's a very unique game. And yeah, it doesn't feel like something Ubisoft would have their hands in. So
Yeah. Yeah, very strange. But I mean, hopefully, hopefully it's in better hands now.
hopefully, I just want it out there so like other people can play it. That's my main takeaway, honestly.
Yeah.
So there's that. Now, I want to go back to what I was talking about, which was the fact that last week I brought this up, and I want to bring up the same thing. I see far too many people that
Mhm.
are just really soft on just letting games by, no matter how poorly they run, and not deducting points unless they're absolutely abysmal or unless they think they can get away with it because it's not a popular franchise.
Mhm.
Do you think that, well, I guess my thing is I think that people should factor in the quality of the game with its performance to a review of said game, because I think that does hinder some of the enjoyment of games if its performance is very poor. And I bring
Mhm.
this up for two reasons. Last week I brought it up because Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Mhm.
I showed you the video, you saw how bad it was at the end game and how honestly unacceptable it was. And no one's talking about it. You wouldn't have known about it unless I told you.
Mhm.
I don't think that's fair. I really don't think that's fair because the performance is very poor as you get further into the game to the point where
Mhm.
it does become a less enjoyable game. But it seems like a lot of people aren't like they don't have the balls to say that. They don't want to actually do any of the journalism part of the gaming journalism for fear of pissing off companies. But I feel like game these reviewers need to really say, hey, this is not okay. And
Mhm.
another example is pretty much every Unreal Engine 5 game this generation. It is run like absolute dog shit. And
Yeah.
we got another one just today. That being Metal Gear Solid Delta. The
Mhm.
game on PS5 runs at 720p upscaled to 1080p and cannot hold 60 FPS and consistently stays around the 40s and 50s. That's unacceptable. That's completely unacceptable. That's just insane to me.
Yeah.
Like that's past generation quality. That doesn't
Mhm.
make any sense. We are literally going backwards. Everything from charging more for the consoles now to the games running poorer than what we even had towards the end of last year, like last generation's lifespan. What the fuck are we doing? Like seriously, it seems like this whole 60 FPS notion that a lot of consoles were going for is being like thrown out the fucking window, and it seems like everyone's just kind of ignoring when games are running very poorly, specifically Unreal Engine 5 games or Nintendo, when Nintendo does it with stuff like their Pokemon games, which granted they did get hosed because people are very sick and tired of Pokemon running poorly, but they didn't get hosed. They didn't get people calling their shit out when it was like Sun and Moon, and that game ran at like 15, 10 FPS at times. I mean, like, the thing is, people only seem to call it out when it's become like, all right, we've been dealing with this for 5 years now. Let's finally call it out. But they don't just say it when it first happens. Like, we've been dealing with Unreal Engine 5 games being really bad this entire generation. And there are some people that are now starting to point it out, but there are very few people that are willing to do that. And I just think that's insane. And that something like that, like the performance of a game that you're paying your hard-earned money for, should be taken into account when you put it out a review. And I guess that's just me asking, what do you think? Where do you stand on this whole conversation?
I mean, I think it's hard to have like a definitive answer on this one. Um, so because a lot of it's going to depend on who's reviewing it and the state of the game when they're reviewing it, and a couple different things. So I mean, obviously, if like comparatively, like obviously, like if you and I both were reviewing Donkey Kong, and I'd say, at least gameplay wise, I feel like we both feel similarly about it. And obviously, I think our discrepancies come from like the gameplay performance. Some of it may, in our case, may have just even been because I played a lot of it in handheld and you played more of it on the TV, kind of as we
Yes.
talked about there. So, I mean, that can be a factor in between, like, oh, was it was it just the reviewer didn't see it? Did they not go into the places to do it?
So
Did they
if
not get to
you're
the
a
experience?
professional, well, if did they not go into places to do it? Did they not finish the game? That would be kind of shit if you put out a review and you didn't actually finish the game. You know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna see it if you finish the game. And most reviewers aren't just playing in handheld or dock; they'll do both, especially since they want to give you like a general idea of what the game is like. Like, hey, this is the battery life, or hey, on dock this sort of thing happens, or whatever. But that's the thing. That's the thing. Sometimes they will do that, but it feels like with Donkey Kong, they just decide to plug their ears and ignore it. I think they're actually afraid of making the Switch 2 look bad. I
Oh, the
really
other
do.
thing is too,
And then there was a
I was
thing that came out today where it
mm,
seems like Nintendo doesn't have the development kits that people are requesting, and it's kind of discouraging people that were going to do like third party development for the system itself, as alongside like what some people have already seen while developing for the console. And that, when developers are already saying something like that, that's kind of a red flag. But it feels like, you know people don't want to piss off Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? People don't
I
want to
get what
get
you're saying.
blacklisted, and it goes for every company, obviously. But
I
I
mean,
feel like
I
there's a
don't.
lot more bias towards Nintendo games when it comes to
I've never
like.
seen Nintendo blacklist someone for like a poor review. At least not that I've ever seen. Um,
And I'm not saying that they do. I'm saying that the general like the journalists, like the reviewers, I think they're just too afraid of being blacklisted. That's
well,
that's what I'm
I
trying
think with Nintendo's case, and I think this is part of the reason why you see what you're talking about a little bit more.
to say.
'Cause I know that there's been kind of an unwritten rule, and I've heard about it before with, like, games journalism, and I don't know if it's still the case or not, but I assume it probably still is, where if they're reviewing something that's pre-release, knowing that there's going to be a day 1 patch, they'll give it a little bit of leeway, assuming that a lot of those issues, like, a lot of those minor issues that they had
We're in a
probably are gonna be polished up, you know, after the review's out before the game releases.
we're
And
in a
I
generation right now where every single game in existence has a day one patch. It's more rare to not find a game with a day one patch. So are they doing this to every single game?
yeah. I mean, I guess that's the question. I guess my question to you would be, knowing that games are being reviewed prior to their final
Hmm.
patch, how would you like them to address it? Like, knowing that these issues are there. Would you
So
like them to put out the review and be like, "Hey, we had these issues, but we didn't factor them in"? Or would you like them to factor in and like change the review after the fact if they are indeed fixed?
I've seen this
Or
in the
even
past.
further
Oh,
down the
sorry.
road, if those things are fixed, like, months down the road,
Hmm.
do they go back and readjust the review then? I guess that kind of, with those kind of things that, may or may not be permanent issues,
Hmm.
kind of where do you draw the line?
I've actually seen this sort of thing in the past,
Hmm.
and I think it's a really good way of handling it. When
Uh-huh.
you get your review code and you put out your review code of that game that you've just played, that was your experience of the game,
Uh-huh.
you inform people, this was my experience. This is what I had happen to me. This is how my gameplay was. There is planned to be a day one patch, but it remains to be seen if this problem will be fixed by said day one patch. So this is something that you would use to inform the general public about the problems that you faced initially when doing your specific review of the game. And
Hmm.
as such, then people have in mind, hey, this could be an issue, but also, yeah, I'll wait and see, the day one patch, maybe it fixes it or whatever. And then when the day one patch comes out, reviewer returns and says, hey, this problem was fixed, makes an amendum to their review, or they say, hey, this problem was not fixed and it still needs to be addressed by whatever company. I've seen this done before in the past by like written reviewers that were like more like not big titles, big not big titles, but big names like not like IGN, not like those big ones and everything.
Yeah.
But I've seen like the people that like, for instance, there's a very big subset on like Twitter of
Hmm.
people that have a shit ton of followers that review games as they're playing them, that sort of thing. It doesn't even matter like what game it is, if it's new or not or whatever. They just put out their thoughts and they have like really long posts because they're paying for Twitter, whatever the fuck it's called anymore,
Yeah, yeah.
premium or whatever, and like they are very in depth with their information. And if it's a pre-release code that they got, they will update the post later on and be like, hey, this problem is still here. It needs to be addressed. And a lot of the time, these people are people that are already in the industry in some way, shape, or form, but
Hmm.
don't have like as big of a following or aren't tied to your IGNs, Kotakus, Polygons, what have you, that sort of deal. And as such, they're able to be more like intimate about their review about it. They don't really hold back on maybe the issues they faced when playing the game itself, maybe some of their criticisms of said game. Sometimes people are harsher, or they are more receptive to like giving them a little bit of leeway. And a lot of the times, these people also openly present their biases and be like, "Hey, I'm a huge fan of this sort of thing. So I
Hmm.
do have a clear bias, but yeah, I just want to let you know that this also happens a lot of the time with like YouTube reviewers that review certain things, or God forbid, they're like in the game. They'll be like, "Hey, I'm in this game, so I have a clear bias. It's impossible for me to be 100% subjective. Here are my feelings about the game, but please keep in mind that I am a voice in this game, or I am a character in this game, or they contacted me in some way, shape, or form to help with this game. So make your own purchasing decision based off the information I give you, as well as knowing that fact." And I think things like that feel a lot more professional than a lot of the gaming journalist space do now. And as such, I do think that it feels a lot more intimate, and like you're able to get a lot more information out of reviews that are like that give you way more information about said review, said game, said movie, said whatever it may be.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess on that thought though, how realistic is it to have like, a larger outlet to kind of go through and kind of re-review things,
I'm not
periodically,
telling them to re-review the entire thing. They just have to do a update and be like, "Hey, this is an update. This is the launch day. The launch day. This problem that I have mentioned in my review has not been fixed." And maybe they reach out to the developer and see if they can get some information or whatever about it. And if they can't, then they just at least put the whole information that, hey, this problem was not fixed. It's not really that difficult, and other people have pointed this out before. It's not really that difficult to make a save slot where that specific problem is, and then keep that save slot, open for whenever there's a patch in the future, and then you come back to that and see if, hey, is this problem still here, or is it gone? And then you can update it accordingly. I don't know. I've seen it done in some places, and I think it's just a lot better way of reviewing things. And I think it's something that really needs to be done with the age that we're in, where games are literally just launching the day one patch first and foremost. And even then, sometimes it doesn't do anything to fix the problems. And it's like, what the fuck was the point of the day one patch in the first place? I don't know, man. I do feel like there needs to be some other form of like getting the information out there to people about the problems that they may face with the game. Or, if the game is released and it's like a case of you can't review this game until it releases, then getting the information out to people like, hey, I'm playing this game alongside you guys, and this is what I've run into. And, actually letting people know that it's a legitimate issue. And then like how we were talking, if it's not an issue in some other way, like in handheld because of VRR, then you can inform people of that. And then people can make the purchase decision based off of that. Because you know what? Not everyone's going to play a Switch 2 on a big TV. A lot of people are just going to play it on the handheld because they'll still see it as like a Switch, a handheld console. But some people definitely want to play their new shiny Switch on their 4K TV or what have you and have it look nice. And for those people, they're going to actually have a worse experience. And knowing that, I think, is very important.
No, I don't disagree there, but like I said, it does open up a lot of kind of like questions, because it's like, well, does that mean that like if someone's going to review a game, should they have two separate reviewers, one for handheld, one for not desktop, TV mode docked? That's what I'm looking for. Something like that, because I played half of the game, like the first half of Donkey Kong, pretty much entirely on the TV, and then I played the second half almost entirely in handheld, which kind of created the opposite effect, because I played the probably the most stable part of the game on the TV mode, and then I played the least stable one in handheld mode, which kind of
so you
at
didn't
least softened
experience the
those
least
issues.
stable portion.
Yeah,
No, I get that.
Portion in the least desirable state.
So for that, I'll point to, and I will use this as an example, like IGN, for instance. They sometimes have 2 or 3 or 4 people that give like their thoughts on a game. Like you'll have the main reviewer, and you'll have at the bottom like, oh, this person also played the game, and this is their thoughts. This is a thing that used to be done quite often when it came to reviewing things. And I think maybe having that secondary person be like someone that plays it on like handheld, like, hey, my colleague that's also playing this game that played it on handheld, this was their experience, and the colleague's like, hey, I didn't have the problems that this person mentioned, and it ran fine for me, probably due to, for instance, like we were talking about, the VRR implementation. And then you've got other things, like you have these multi-platform games that are released on like PS5 and Xbox Series X and PC, and they're all going to have different experiences, and you do have people that review all 3 of them. Why can't you also have people that review like a different experience that you would have, such as like the handheld, or such as like a update in the future? Because there are people that have literally done reviews, and I mean like IGN, I mean like Kotaku, that have done reviews for like Cyberpunk's patch 2.0 and been like, hey, this is how this game runs. Well, why don't you do that for more stuff? Why don't you give information for more stuff, not just the one specific game? Because you've got all these other problems. You've got these problems like with Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater Delta that just came out literally today, where like it is unplayable in some cases. I literally watched a man today whose entire job is doing benchmarks struggle to have it run on the most expensive setup you could possibly have on PC. It wouldn't even run correctly. It would just stutter and crash. And he is a person whose computer is like $5 fucking grand. Like he is a person whose computer is built specifically to benchmark this stuff, and it won't work for him. That's insane.
That's the other thing. I think it's the other thing you kind of got to split down too, because
Hmm.
I think there's kind of two different areas where you kind of have to differentiate too,
Hmm.
and it's really like, you know, is the performance of the game so poor that it's, like, to what degree is it affecting it? Because, there's some, some things that are, obviously more minor. I think in my head, I think the way that I would do it, if I was going to do it,
Hmm.
I don't think I would factor it into the reviews unless it affected the gameplay.
I would
And
say
I
those final bosses finishing the actual game was very difficult because of how poorly the performance was. This is going back
well,
to
I'm not talking
Donkey
about
Kong
Donkey
once
Kong in
again.
particular. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I
in
was just
general.
using as an example.
Yeah.
That would definitely
Um,
be something that factors into the gameplay. You know.
yeah, so there's that. So, and I think kind of the way that I would do it is kind of like on two separate things. Whether or not if it affects the gameplay or not. And I think if it affects the gameplay, I think what I would do is I would probably have it the included on the review. I don't know if I would include it into the review score specifically. Um,
Hmm.
let me finish because I didn't.
Yeah. No. No. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Um,
I'm
I
just
think
making
what I would.
noises. I'm allowed to.
Well, not you're allowed to make noises, but I know what those noises imply. But I don't think I would include it in the review score specifically. I think what I would do is actually, like, with the review score, I'd be like, okay, game XYZ is at 8, and then, like, right underneath that, I would be like, all right, and then I'd be like performance, and I would have like a category specifically for performance, and I
Hmm.
also would include in there, be like, okay, this is the version of the game that we played. These are the issues that we experienced, and I would put a modifier on there and say, while these issues are in play, we would give this score, like, give it like a -1, kind of like a score that kind of takes away from that core gameplay tally, to kind of signify that the performance of the game detracts from the gameplay, like, specifically, and how much it detracts from the gameplay. So that way it's not kind of like baked into, like, because where are you going to throw it? Like, that's the other problem with reviews. They're not really built for that. I mean, maybe PC reviews are, but I don't think, like, console reviews, like, really are, because they're like graphics and,
Well, for
gameplay and
instance,
audio.
the
Hmm.
we were just talking about Donkey Kong, so that's very much so a problem that's not going to be changed until there's an update.
Yeah.
Or unless you're playing it in a different fashion than directly on the TV monitor, what have you, that sort of
Hmm.
deal. And then another example is again Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta Snake Eater, which its performance drops drastically in um in performance mode. Like it's very very bad. Like it is sub 60 and at times even sub 40. That's not acceptable, and that's being seen across the board, whether it be the PC version, the Xbox, Series X, Series S, or the PS5 or the PS5 Pro. In fact, the PS5 Pro is actually the worst version of that game out of every single one of them, because on top of the poor performance, you can't change it from performance or quality version. You're just stuck at the quality version that combines the performance version together and uses PSSR. And that's a really big problem when you don't have the option of making your game version run as good as the base PS5. If you're paying like $800 for a console almost, you probably should be expecting better performance. And the way they're kind of like baking these two things in together and then just using up their new upscaling tech to fix it, that's really bad. That's really bad. When a base PS5 does better in the game than the highest end version of the console, that's something that should definitely be reported on, because that's just not good. That's a very big standout. That's very, very bad. And I think that's, something that could definitely be mentioned and probably should be mentioned, because, you buy the new, fancy, expensive console hoping to get the best experience. And if you're not going to, I think that should be presented to people.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable, and I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But, like I said, that definitely would fall in the category of, performance affects gameplay, and that
Yes.
definitely, should be factored into there too.
But the problem is almost every Unreal Engine 5 game on console or PC is like that, because the engine Unreal Engine 5 is just straight up fucking dog shit. It is just so bad, and they know it's bad, and everyone knows it's bad, and everyone keeps using it because it's so convenient. But you still have the exact same problems across the board through all these different developers, through all these different, publishers, through all these different game types. They all have the same issues when using Unreal Engine 5, and that's a thing that is going to, persist across every single console, across every single PC. So again, that's performance that's going to definitely be hindering the gameplay no matter what. And that's something that's being repeated with every single Unreal Engine 5 game that exists. Like, I mean, honestly, you might as well just slap a sticker on something warning people that something uses Unreal Engine 5 at this point, because of how bad it's been, received on consoles this generation.
I mean, honestly, Unreal Engine 4 was just as bad. Unreal Engine 3 was just as bad. So
I think 3 was okay. I think 4 was where the problem started, right? I think 3 was a case of on console when they had Unreal Engine 3, right? They were just there was a lot of problems back in the day, not necessarily with the engine of Unreal Engine. And the reason why I say the engine of it is because you could take this and put it on a PC and not have any issues whatsoever. But those same issues that you're going to see on consoles persist across the PC version as well. Just meaning that's an engine problem. That's an engine problem that's going to persist across every single thing it's put on, because of how poorly optimized the engine as a whole is. That's not a problem specifically with oh, the consoles are underpowered, or oh, this, that, and the other. When you can take the most powerful thing and you can not get things on Unreal Engine 5 to work, and to a lesser extent with Unreal Engine 4. Unreal Engine 4 was bad because it would have a lot of stuttering because they didn't pre-cache shaders back in the day. So that was a big issue. But now, even when pre-caching shaders, it doesn't matter because the engine is so fucking poorly optimized. And honestly, if a game is running on Unreal Engine 5, it's almost guaranteed to be a massive mess across the board on everything it's on. And as such, I think something like that should be warned about, because there are definitely repeated problems across every single system that an Unreal Engine 5 game has been put on. Now, I'm not saying the warning should be hey, warning, this game runs on Unreal Engine 5. I think the warning should be hey, we already know that we might have to give some kind of performance review for this one because it is running on this engine. It is going to do very poorly. So we need to tell people the level of poor, because there have been people that are so talented that they can get things working miracles. For instance, the Expedition 33 devs are so very talented that they were able to cache things correctly, and they were able to set everything up the way it needed to be to get around Unreal Engine 5's problems. And basically, they made everything that they needed to pretty much defeat the issues that Unreal Engine 5 has, but it was a Herculean task to do so. And then you look at other developers that, like Ubisoft, Microsoft, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like Konami, and they're not putting in as much effort, but it's because there's a lot of effort that needs to be put in to make this engine work correctly, because you're fighting against it. And you see the same thing across different genres and games and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, I'm just saying, I think performance should factor in. I think it should factor in less, and I think it should be factored in at the end. I think like we were talking before, I think we should give a base score for something, and then you should give a score based on performance, and the performance only allows the game to go down in score. Yeah. But you have that first score where it's and I'll give you an example because this is how I feel. I loved Donkey Kong Bonanza. Donkey Kong Bonanza was a great game. I really enjoyed it. The last 4 to 6 hours of that game was absolute hell because of how bad the performance got. It
Mhm.
lost like 2 points from the 9 it was already at, bringing it down to a 7. Then I
Okay.
played the post game, which I actually quite liked the post game, and I gave it another point for the post game, and therefore I would say my overall review of Donkey Kong would be an 8. That's it. But obviously they would include the post game end because they would
So
finish
wait,
it
so
through
you
the
get
post game.
ultimately gave it a 10 and then just took 2 points away?
No. I originally.
Well, no, I know.
Okay, I know what you're
Just
saying.
where
I know
you're
what you're
given the
saying.
extra point.
I
Yeah.
know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Uh,
So are you saying that the performance was better in the post game, and then maybe you were not only taking away 1 point?
you know what? Now that I think about that, now that I've said that out loud, it makes
Mhm.
so little sense. So let me rethink this,
Okay.
because I did add a point because the performance was better in the post game. Yes, because I wasn't fighting the bosses, because I wasn't doing this, that, and the other, and it was way easier to get through and just kind of turn my brain off and have a lot of fun in the post game. So
Mhm.
if I were to take the post game into account before the performance, yeah, I probably would have gave the game a 9 and only
Mhm.
subtracted 1 point for the performance. So we'll
Okay.
do that, okay?
All right. Makes sense.
So that
Yeah.
would put it at an 8, and we'll do that.
Okay. That's reasonable. The other solution I kind of thought about too, which is kind of what they do on like the iOS store to some
Hmm.
degree, not quite, um, but kind of stealing that kind of idea in some method, would be to, kind of a user solution too, kind of like a
Oh,
Metacritic kind of thing.
Like Steam does, where it tells you when the review was published and what version of the game it was on when that review was put out. So you
Yeah.
could see the most recent reviews and everything
Hmm.
to understand what people that are playing the game currently are reviewing it as. That's what Steam does. That's literally what
Yeah.
Steam does.
And also
And then
gives,
they have a
give users the ability to comment on like performance of specific versions. Um, just be like, okay, hey, I'm playing version, 1.1, and these are the issues that we're having. And then, either, version 1.2 comes out and it kind of resets and, starts letting people, comment on the 1.2 kind of
And
performance.
I have seen that go over really well with Steam games. Like I've seen games that 1.0 version released in absolute dogshit state, and people ended
Mm-hmm.
up buying it, and it ended up selling well by version 1.5 or by version 2.0. And case in point, again, No Man's Sky, which is the easiest one to come back to,
Mm-hmm.
or Cyberpunk, which is also very easy to come back to. The updates of those games significantly improved both the performance and the actual gameplay. So when those reviews were updated, those games sold like crazy
Mm-hmm.
because people were like, okay, this game is good now. And then the game sold. It was as simple as that. And I think if something like that was introduced, which I don't think it ever will be in the console space,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if they did, they would actually sell a lot more games. And it might also regulate it so developers try a little bit harder.
Yeah, or at least give them, a place to kind of see, more specifically about certain issues with, certain things. I mean, the other thing, too, that's always kind of, in mind is, there's definitely a certain point of time passed when the game releases where they just don't care as much about fixing those issues anymore, unless it's like a, ongoing like service game.
Hmm.
Um, so, there's definitely going to be a point in time where, that's just kind of like, okay, well, this is the best that game's ever going to get, unfortunately. Um, but at least at that point, that stuff should be pretty well documented by, reviewers or whoever. Um, so yeah, there's that. I had another point to make on it, but I think that's about it. I think that's all my
You wanna
thoughts.
think about that other point you had?
Mm, I don't think so. I don't remember what it was. I'm sure it will come to me eventually, but it wasn't anything major. I was just kind of building off of something we probably already were talking about. Um, but yeah, I mean, I said the big points that I wanted to make.
Hmm.
That's all. Mhm.
So I will say one other thing.
Yeah.
This is, I guess, the last little bit they'll throw in here. It's something else that I wanted to
Hmm.
discuss. I see a
Yeah.
lot of people that, and you know what? No, I'll save this one. I'll save that for later. I'll save that for later. Um, yeah, we aren't gonna touch that topic. That's another topic.
Okay, just a whole entire different topic.
Yeah, it would take too long to get into that one.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess my final point being shit kind of sucks this generation optimization wise, and there needs to be some sort of regulation fixing it because it's just not acceptable the way some things are releasing, and it's rather upsetting.
Yeah. Well, eventually, it's money speaks at the end of the day. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
So until
Oh,
people stop
oh
buying
my
stuff.
God. Speaking of money speaking, oh my God. All right. So you may know a lot of people have been upset with Call of Duty for releasing all the like animated skins and the like really pretty and vibrant shit and everything. Because they're like, hey, this is supposed to be a war game. This seems very stupid and kind of Fortnite-ish the way they're like treating their game by releasing like spawn skins or Hank Hill or whatever as a skin for Call of Duty, and it's really stupid and people hate it. So Call of Duty decided the best way to take care of this is to say every single skin that you guys have bought will not be transferring over to Call of Duty Black Ops 7. And they announced that today, kind of acting like they were doing some huge favor, like disguising it like, we listen to you. We know you
Uh-huh.
guys hate these sort of skins, but really all they're doing is making it so people can't use like the shit they bought over the last like year and a half now.
Yeah.
So they would have to rebuy everything, and anything they were to buy right now that's in the shop doesn't carry over. So there's no longer a reason to even care at
Oh
all
yeah.
about buying anything for that game. And it's like, wow, you guys are really fucking stupid. Like some people are like championing it, like finally we're gonna get back to like gritty, realistic, and not these stupid colorful skins. It's like, bro, I'm telling you right now, within a month, you're gonna see those shits everywhere, all over again. You're just gonna have people rebuying them because they got scammed by Activision.
Yep. I'm sure they will be like, oh, where did all our revenue go? Oh, we stopped selling skins. Oh, we'll start selling new skins.
Yep.
Yeah, it will all come back around again for sure.
I'm still angry because I bought 2 skins for Call of Duty
Hmm.
that are awesome skins, and I can't use them in the next game or the current one. No, the current game I can't even use them in. So I got a Gundam skin because I love Gundam, and I thought it was really neat the way they had like created an operator or a character, that you could play as that looked like the mechs,
Hmm.
the Gundams, and I got one of those skins a while back. Like this was like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it was super neat. Didn't transfer over, and then during Halloween, I bought a skin also, which is from my favorite movie, which is Frank the Bunny from Donnie Darko. I
Oh
have
yeah.
that as a skin. I have that as a fucking character skin in Call of Duty, and it's so cool, but I can never use it again. Like,
Yeah.
bro, it
That's
sucks
why those
so
skins are
much.
dumb.
It
Yeah.
sucks so much.
Why
Well,
would
the
you want
thing
to buy
is,
something that only use
the
it
thing
for a
is,
year?
like, I literally have skins in Fortnite that I got from like purchasing a cell phone in 2017 that are
Uh-huh.
still completely usable. But like Call of Duty will always make you rebuy all your fucking skins, and it's really stupid. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
I pretty much decided after 2 games ago that I'm never buying another skin in Call of Duty because there's no fucking point because they're just gonna take it away from you in the future. So like, why should I care?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. That seems like just a big money grab on their
It
part.
is literally a money grab and a waste of time.
Yeah. So, no, I agree 100%. I would not.
Anyway, that's it. That's the end of that discussion.
Okay.
Uh,
Anything else you want to talk about?
no. Hollow Knight Silk Song comes out though soon. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
I,
that is
I
very
could
exciting.
I will say one more thing about Silk Song. I guess I do want to talk about something.
Yeah.
They sent out a survey the other day to the Kickstarter backers from
Hmm.
Hollow Knight that uh that had like originally kickstarted it and asked them what console they want their copy of Silk Song on. So
Hmm.
even 7, 8 years later, they're honoring the Kickstarter backers and giving
Oh, that's
them
good.
a copy of Silk Song, which
Yeah,
is
as they
fucking
should.
neat. Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but you don't see that much. I think a
No,
lot of the
yeah,
time. So
not as
like
much as they should.
that's super cool in my
Hmm.
opinion. So that's really
Yeah.
neat. It's really funny because like the Kickstarter backers shared an image of it, and they were like, It has Wii U crossed out, and it has it replaced with Switch or Switch 2 as the option. And it's like, okay, that's crazy, because that's how long this game has been in development.
Yeah,
That's
that's pretty wild.
fucking nuts.
All right. Yeah, so we'll probably have to talk about that. Well, that will. No, I won't be out next week, will it? Before we record? No,
Yeah.
not really.
It comes out on the 4th. When's the
Yeah,
4th?
but after we record.
Wait, what? Oh
The
yeah, that
4th
comes
is
out
after we
Wednesday.
record
It
next
comes
week.
out
Yeah.
Wednesday. Damn. That's
Mhm.
also Hot Shots Golf Day. So in 2 weeks, expect to hear about Silk Song and Hot Shots Golf,
Yeah.
because I'll be playing both of those day one.
Yeah.
I would have been playing other games, but they delayed their game because of the release of Silk Song. So many indie devs that I wanted to play the game of, like, delayed their game. They're like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're not gonna release it during Silk Song. This is like the indie version of GTA 6 releasing. We can't release our game during Silk Song's release week.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, all right. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it. I'm done.
Okay. Well, on that note, thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to check out our old episodes, they're all available on game-crunch.com. If you want to send us email, gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon,
Hello.
any final thoughts?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Well, on that note, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online on Clash of Penguin there or on your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Game on.
Bright lights call my name, pixel dreams all around. Monsters to defeat, no limits can be found. Controllers in my hand, Game Crunch here we stand. Quests and heroes rise, worlds unfold, no disguise. Game on, we dive into the night. Game on, everything feels just right. Level up, let's go, mysteries to be found. Hidden treasures glow, new challenges abound. Starships fly and dragons soar through the enchanted door. Game Crunch, we're never bored. We'll play forevermore. Game on, we dive into the night. Game on, everything feels just right. Level up, let's go, mysteries to be found. Hidden treasures glow, new challenges abound.
There was a new update in Fortnite tonight, and I've been grinding the shit out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they introduced my favorite band to the game,
Which band is that?
Gorillaz.
Oh, nice.
I fucking love the Gorillaz. One of my favorite bands of all time.
I definitely heard you talk about them a couple times.
And they got put in Fortnite today. They have a whole music season done by Harmonix, the people that originally made Rock Band Guitar Hero.
Oh, and like the Fortnite Rock Band thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Trying to unlock the song, the special song, Melancholy Hill, which is a really good song. I'm trying to think of what I have to talk about.